First episode's hinting that they got up to some bad business. Some shit occurred. That is the best way to describe it in my mind. Some shit occurred. Clearly, you know, they got into some stuff. Hello everybody and welcome to Blockbuster Review. If you don't know what that is, it is where I play a single game of Tetris Marathon and try to review a film or something else while playing a single game of Tetris Marathon, so until the blocks reach the top or until I get to 150 lines. Spoilers are at line 50. I think it'll be important here. And here we go. So Yellowjackets is a film. It's not a film at all. It's a television program. So we're starting off wonderful. It's a television program on Showtime that just wrapped up. I'm recording this less than 24 hours after watching the season 1 finale. And I gotta tell you, it's pretty darn good. It's about this group of high school students, female high school students, who are a part of this kick-ass soccer team in New Jersey that's going to nationals. And while they're on the plane ride to nationals, they have themselves a good old-fashioned plane crash. This whole section of the show takes place in the 90s, which I am well aware of. I grew up in the 90s a little bit. And that is half the story. The other half is what's going on with some of those girls today in 2021. They are now women. They are now trying to live their lives after having a horrible experience. And at least the first episode, this isn't that big of a spoiler, the first episode's hinting that they got up to some bad business. Some shit occurred. That is the best way to describe it in my mind. Some shit occurred. Clearly, you know, they got into some stuff. I'll leave it at that. Hopefully you go watch the first episode before I get to spoiler time. And the other half is, you know, them as adults, and one of them, Thaisa, is running for public office. Because, you know, after you do something really fucked up and you kind of wish that you would just let your past go, the best thing to do, I've learned, is to run for public office where people aren't digging through your dirt. That seems like the best idea known to man. And she's running for office. One of the other girls, Natalie, is coming out of rehab. One of the other girls, Shauna, yes, Shauna, is living that housewife life. And then there's another one named Misty, played by Christina Ricci, who, by the way, quick aside, Christina Ricci's killing it. Also, Natalie is played by Juliette Lewis. Yes, and she's killing it. All of the young actresses are killing it too. It's really well acted, well executed, good shit. And, you know, just to, I guess, get some soy boy points, if that's what you want to call it, some SJW bucks, it's really cool to see a show where most of the cast is women. Something I didn't realize too crazily until after Mad Max Fury Road came out and I started to re-examine how women are treated in film. How did that drop? Where did that... What's going on with my controller? It's just cool to have a show where primarily the stars are women, most of the actresses women, and they're all doing women... Wow, I was going to say women stuff. I mean, they're all engaged in a pretty horrible situation together and trying to work through it, as I think the show would posit as women would, as opposed to men, which would, you know, usually turn into feral tribes and start eating each other. Anyway, as we get closer to spoiler time, so the show starts really getting going when you, like, the first thing I realized is we're seeing the current day from the perspective of only 4 characters. There were a bunch of girls who survived the plane crash. A bunch. One of them, Lottie, they kind of hint like, oh, she kind of sees things. You know, she's like, maybe she's a little psychic. Just a little psychic. And she's starting going off when they find a cabin. She's like, we shouldn't be going in this cabin, bros. Or ladies. And they're like, hey, you're just acting crazy, Lottie, you know? You're just crazy Lottie, being all crazy. And then they have a seance, and that's some shit that I was like, okay, dudes are not having a seance. Also, don't have even a joke seance in a creepy-ass place. That's like rule number 1. I'd be Audi 5000. Be like, we're not participating in this. Some of the characters don't, but I was like, dude, because Lottie, she starts having herself a possession moment. It certainly looks like a possession. It feels like a possession. Smells like a possession. It might be a possession. And there's a warning. It's in fucking French, which of course I looked up, and it was not cool. And they just are like, let's stay in the cabin though. I mean, we got snow to worry about. It's like, yeah, but you also got demons. You got demons in this cabin. And the show goes on. The current day ladies are dealing with the death of one of the male folks on this plane crash, Travis, who is engaged in a on-again, off-again relationship with Natalie. They started this relationship in the woods, and he turns up dead from what looks like a suicide, and then that's a big mystery that they're trying to solve, who actually killed Travis, because Natalie does not believe Travis would kill himself. And then, you know, I'll be honest, the first couple episodes of season 1, I was like, okay, but when are we going to get to the shit you were promising us? You showed us some messed up shib, and we are waiting for that shib to be fully realized on screen. Where is it at? And the show is doing what I like to call losting, where they got us hooked, and now they're just gonna tease us. They're going to tease us for as long as they possibly can, and then they have to give us something, which showed up in the second to last episode of the season, where, you know, they're kind of down because they're like, well, you know, we've spent a lot of time out here, which, by the way, it's all Misty's fault. She destroyed the transponder because she's a horrible person, and she's trying to hook up with the adult coach who's gay. That's a whole bit different thing that I haven't covered. Interesting homosexual representation. That's pretty rad. But what I wanted to get to, the episode before the last, or maybe 2 episodes before the last, I think it's the episode before the last, not super important, because I don't have a lot of time. Misty breaks out mushrooms, and through a set of circumstances, they get accidentally put in the stew they were going to eat for a party they were going to have that night, and that's when I knew shit was going to happen, because an episode earlier, the only character who was super Christian, I think her name was Laura Lee, she died by trying to fly a plane out of the area that they were in, because they found a plane out of nowhere, and the plane just fucking spontaneously explodes. And so now they're like, well, what do we do? Like, it's all hope is lost, and they're like, let's have a homecoming. We have our dresses. So they do this thing, and Misty is like, got fucking mushrooms. So it's like, okay, so the Christian chick's gone. They found like this ancient booze. So they're like, we got booze, and we're gonna mix it with mushrooms. They must have the mushrooms. They're mixing their mushrooms and their booze, and I'm like, so this is when the shit's gonna happen then. You mix mushroom with booze and a bunch of crazy hungry teenagers, you're gonna have some messed up stuff. And sure enough, it started. And then I just wanted to say about the last episode, won't reveal what happens, but they are leaning into season 2. They're going, we better get a season 2, or else you're just gonna live with them blue balls, or whatever the blue balls equivalent is for women. Great show on Showtime. I think the first episode is free. Check it out.